Hello and welcome back to another video on Marvel. So, this is going to be a review of Ironheart Episode 1. And as an opening episode, it took me a lot to get into. It took me a bit to get into it because, quite frankly, Riri annoyed the living heck out of me in the beginning. It's like you've been given a Stark internship from the guy you idealize, which he does at least try to call attention to a few times throughout the episode, and rightly so. That's what a legacy character should do. Um, and you're wasting what's been given to you by gaining money by selling scam essays to every university in America and other universities that were famous of note, like Oxford, Cambridge, that kind of thing. And it's like, okay. And even when you did that to gain money, what did they do? They gave you 4 years of dispensation, 4 years of forgiveness, 4 years of care, and you didn't really do anything with it but squander it. Like, if you idealize the man, and then before he dies, presumably during Civil War or sometime from the MCU timeline, his company slash him give you a scholarship to go to college for 4 years, that is freely paid. You wouldn't waste that by not doing the work. I get that you're a bored genius, but, like, come on. If this was from your idol, you'd be fucking thrilled that they paid for you to do this. Wouldn't you? Like, come on. Alright, so I didn't like that direction that they took her in. And they're trying to show the parallels to Stark being arrogant and things, and she is allowed to be an arrogant character because, frankly, she's only just starting out. She's allowed to have flaws, but the arrogance of wasting something from your idol, I just didn't like. Then trying to take the suit, and people being like, well, it is her, she made it with her own grant money. Yeah, grant money given to a university student or PhD professor or PhD student, that kind of thing. Um, Patents aren't made in the makers' names; they're made in the universities. They're made in the universities' names, and people don't get paid for their research and things because the university pays them, and that's part of their expectation if they're a professor, or the university is being paid by the student to give them access to things they wouldn't have access to otherwise to make the technology. So it's part of the expectation that the student wouldn't just keep the armor. But it's not the fact that she stole it and walked out because they're trying to show how she's like Stark, and Stark would have done that. If it was his Iron Man armor being kept from him because he doesn't trust the rest of the world with it. And she doesn't do that for that reason, though. She does it because she just wants to build something iconic and money making, and it's the only thing they'll care about is an Iron Man suit. Apparently. So she steals that, and she does steal it because she doesn't own it, which I can forgive because she can't be Ironheart without the suit, so it's kind of like fair enough, she steals the suit. But the fact that there are people arguing in the background, well, she built it with her grant money, it's hers. It's like, students would know full well you can't just take the property. They would know this. This would be spelled out to them. What the hell did they think was just dumb? It's dumb that people are arguing about it in the background, but that's a small thing. And then she takes the suit and basically is like, well, I have to explain my homework to my professor, so this is a waste of time. I get being bored with the work, but throwing away a free ride in college when you claim to be smart and you want to prove it by doing the qualification that, according to your own professors, was tailored to your needs. Because otherwise, you might not have been able to get in on an early program course, which proves you have flaws in your intelligence, which is a good thing for a character to start with. But she just ignores that entirely. And she said, oh, I made the suit, I made this, I made that, I fixed this and that, and then I wrote all these essays because that's how smart I am. If they didn't just have the monologue and then her being expelled, if they actually showed that in episode 1 and then her being expelled in episode 2 when she gets found out, I feel like it would have been a longer episode link, but it would have been better because it would have explained her arrogance, whilst also seeing her do technological feats. Um. Anyway, so then a criminal is like, well, free thinkers need to do anything to get the money they need, and she rationalizes this, which I think you would do when you're a kid, as, well, I need the money to do what I want to do, so fine. And I think kids can do that, and younger people can do that, and can fall into these kind of things, obviously. But it's the fact that she idealizes Tony Stark, a man that was very public about his flaws and his whole character journey, and he stopped making weapons when he came back. She would know that if she idolized him. He was very careful how the Iron Man suit was used. He worked with the government to make sure he was in the right side of the law in Civil War, even causing great disturbance to the Avengers, ethically or unethically. You can debate the ethics of that one. But the thing I'm pointing out is, if she was idealizing Tony Stark, which she points out, and rightly so, she should, given that she's Ironheart, then why is she willingly folding in with criminals, whether she needs money or not? That's not something Tony would willingly do, and she justifies it by saying, well, I don't have billions, and Tony only had billions when he did this. Which she doesn't say that, but that's what she implies with it, basically. And it's like, yeah, but Tony agreed that that was wrong, and then the billions he had, he gave to relief foundations. The billions he had, he spent on the suit, or projects to help students, and he was constantly wrestling with the guilt of his past. To the point where he was having anxiety attacks, both because of Avengers-based stuff and guilt of his past. Point where his inventions nearly killed him. With Iron Man 2, with the only thing keeping him alive was also causing him great risk, so he had to solve that. And he thought he was dying, so it was a man wrestling with anxiety, his own mortality, the weight of being Iron Man. So I find it ridiculous that she's like, well, he had billions and this is how he did it, which is kind of what she implies to sort of get away from the fact that her actions aren't heroic, even though she wants to be a hero, and I presume that that is something the series is going to tackle in the next 2 episodes, as these are meant to be opening episodes. I hope they do. I hope she stops being involved with criminal intent very quickly, because you can't say she's heroic if she doesn't learn from this. She needs to learn from it before the end of the series, otherwise there'll just be no character progression from episode 1 to 6. So I'm not saying she would otherwise have to learn quickly, but, it's not comparing her development to Tony Stark and saying her development is bad, but she does need to learn quickly, otherwise we're not going to get much plot. But it just annoys me, because I think anyone who idealised Tony Stark and followed him as she did, or as she sort of implies with her dialogue, then she wouldn't even dare get involved in this, regardless of what she needed. She might skirt the line and fuck up with her and mess up with her education and things, but I could see her trying to fix that and doing everything she could to fix that, rather than getting to the point where she got kicked out. Why didn't we see her inventing the suit? And then being like, I need money to keep innovating, so I sell essays, which would be a minor thing and crime that I think you could pretty much forgive of a student with brains. It's been forgiven of real people before. There are actually cases of it within academic circles where it's been forgiven and not forgiven, and it's been very complicated. So it's doable, it's possible, it's understandable that she might go to that level to get money and work on her invention. But going further to get involved with criminality and then make the suit for the sake of criminality is weird. They tried to give her an emotional backstory, which at least they tried to give her an emotional backstory and character, because we don't know anything about her, and the character she had set up in Wakanda Forever was really surface level, so I applaud them for trying, but they do small things that I'm like, isn't this just black stereotyping? Like, she has a stepdad that was very present, but her original father is just not in the picture and not present. As far as we can see, I don't think they mentioned her actual father. I'm glad the stepdad was a present influence, and I guess the trauma of a parent dying is common in superhero media, so I can't blame them for that one. But why couldn't they just made it her dad, and then make black parents just both present in the home? Like, would them removing that stereotype not be a good thing? I mean, I'm glad the stepdad before he tragically died was a present one. At least we had some positive male representation. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see the rest of her backstory. I'm glad she's getting a backstory, but she still has the problem of tell don't show in the first episode quite a bit, and that's annoyed me to the extent I've talked about when it comes to idealizing Stark, but basically being engaged in criminal behaviour, but hey, it's the first thing. She's allowed to have flaws. Hopefully she learns quickly, because she can't be considered a hero wearing the Ironheart suit if she robs people for money in order to use it. Hopefully she goes on one job, sees the job go badly, or gets money, but realises the job went badly, and so stops her, tries to stop the danger. And then you have the same dichotomy as like Daredevil in Daredevil Season 2, where it's like you don't get to create danger, and protect us from that danger is that heroic. And you'll have a lot of moral questions you can answer, and she can actually grow as a hero. So there's a lot of potential there, regardless of the parts I didn't like. I would have preferred it if we'd just seen her selling essays for money because she was just poor. You could easily make that a sympathetic thing. And then she's at risk. Like, this is early in her college career, and she's at risk of losing everything if she doesn't stop. They give her one final chance. She actually does stop, and then discovers that perhaps one of her compatriots that she helped give an essay to is not working because he's working for a criminal gang. So she decides to use the suit for a positive thing. And she didn't just build the suit for, well, it's the only thing people care about is superheroes and iron suits in their hair, which isn't really idealizing Stark. It's kind of shitting on him, but trying not to hint that you are. At least they tried not to go full on shitting on the male hero that she's overtaking. Or taking over from, not overtaking, because she hasn't done near as much his feats. So I'm positive that they didn't do that. Can you tell I went into this with very low expectations, and I'm having a myriad of thoughts all at once. So it's better than I imagined it was going to be, but has glaring flaws of show don't tell, because they show tell don't show rather, because they say a lot how much he's waiting to be acknowledged. They have her tricked into criminality rather than showing heroic feats, and they show her steal a suit that is not owned by her, which she would definitely know. Which, if she was idealising Stark and said, well, he didn't trust it in government hands, or he was very careful with government oversight, blah 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 blah. If she was idealising Stark properly and used him as her rational, ethical argument for why she took the suit, not just, I need money and I need iconic status, or my life is meaningless because I'm this narcissistic / poor. I'm not quite sure what her motive was there. The poor thing is somewhat sympathetic, although most poor people don't engage in criminality, and also making her engage in criminality and be tricked into it. Aren't you again exploring a black stereotype there? For someone that wants to make positive representation and diversity, you're not showing the black community in a very positive light here, because she's not heroic so far. I hope she will be, and I hope she'll learn quick. But the fact that the audio description, I use audio description because I'm visually impaired, actually listed the criminal gang she eventually gets mixed up with, the family, like the sister and brothers and all that, as the diverse group when they're all getting in the van and escaping. Like when they see Riri flying through, it's like, we need tech, and then they see Riri flying through the sky and the suit basically decommissioning because she's no longer a student, and they have shutdowns for dangerous weapons. Who would have predicted that? Somebody who's smart, probably. Anyway, so Riri Williams is not showing herself to be smart thus far. But anyway, you know, they describe the group of criminals as diverse, as if like, look, we've cast diverse people. Cool, I don't care that you've cast diverse people, but also calling a group of criminals a diverse class, isn't that engaging in racism in the plot? Like, isn't that what you want to get away from? I'm not saying it needs to be that cut and dry, but for people that wanted to avoid stereotypes with modernized heroes and passing of the torch, they haven't avoided it in episode 1. And hopefully episode 2 and 3 will progress with the stuff I liked, and she'll be more in line with, like, understanding Stark's ethos through her own personal failings and experience. So they can pull this back. I just hope it gets better. So my overall thought is kind of, I had very low expectations going into this. There is some good stuff there. The backstory stuff isn't totally terrible. The AI creation thing is actually more innovative and interesting than it's shown in the trailers, because it made it look like she didn't understand what she'd created. Now we kind of understand why she doesn't. Although I find all the black stereotypes and like that black-owned business sign in America, is that a thing? Do people advertise their businesses as black-owned? And does that up their business? Is that how racially charged America is? Because that's definitely not a thing here. I mean, I don't mind if a business is diverse or black-owned, whatever you want to call it. Far from it, because we all live in a hodgepodge of a world, and that not caring is what's supposed to show non-racism, right? Um, but the fact that there's literally a label like black owned store outside some shops, which doesn't bother me, I just noticed it because I'm sort of like, oh, is that a thing in America? We don't really do that here. When did that become a thing in America? Transatlantic cousins and fans? Let me know, like, is that a common thing or is it just kind of done for the show? I'm interested in that particular bit because that's odd to me. Like, I don't know who owns what businesses, and I'm sure I've seen diverse people work in them, and they may own them, but I don't know that. It's not really advertised, um, unless it's relevant to their business model of like, I don't know, disability and things like that. But anyway, so yeah, those are my very confused thoughts. I didn't go in with high expectations. There's some potential here, but they also made quite a few stereotypical moves for the black community, I think, and quite a few predictable moves of tell don't show. They didn't show her in the best light throughout this episode. She can have flaws, but I hope she learns from them quickly. And I'm annoyed at the flaws they gave her, given that she claims to have idealized Stark for so long and got the idea from the suit for that reason. Which is fine, but the fact that she idealizes him and doesn't learn from any of his own very public mistakes and flaws and control issues, like her stealing the suit, I can forgive, but the rest is kind of weird. So I hope she learns quickly and she does become heroic. She's not showing herself as a hero at all during episode 1. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Do you think I'm being overly harsh? Comment below and let me know. I went in with no expectations and at least want to see how this ends. It's getting me more engaged than I expected, so I guess that's a mild positive, but I don't like the writing so far. That would be a very good summary. That's the end of the video, guys. Thanks for checking it out. Bye.